All right. So Bill Cates here and Gail Goodman.
Hello. Gail Goodman here.
Yeah, from Nashville. I live in Annapolis, Maryland. We're already starting off with some questions, and Mong, I'll answer your question in a second. So I do hope you're ready to take a lot of notes, because this is going to be a very high content program. But we're gonna send the slides to you. So if you're missing any of the scripting that Gail and I provide, don't worry. You'll get them in the slides. You are recording this, and yes, you will get the replay. If you have to log off a little early because something comes up, you'll get the full replay. You can watch the replay with the slides. So we'll send them to you. And you are going to want to refer to them, because we are covering a lot today in a short period of time. Obviously, there's a need for this, because we filled this one up, and then we've got another one scheduled next week, and it's about filled. And, you know, Gail and I were thinking, we felt empathy, right, Gail, for folks who are just getting started in this business, and COVID hits.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's tough. So anyway, questions. Here's the way to do the questions. Use the Q&A, right? Use the Q&A feature in Zoom, because that's what we will look for with questions. The chat, will come and it'll go past, and we won't be able to see things in the chat all the time. I mean, Gail and I will glance it from time to time, but it's not the best way to ask a question. You may not get your question answered, particularly in the session. And don't raise your hand. No need to raise your hand, because we can't watch that. Usually people raise their hand in Zoom to be unmuted to talk, and we're not going to be able to do that. We just have too many people on the call to be able to do that. So make sure you do the questions inside the Q&A. All right. I saw that somebody raised their hand already. So
everybody's listening to us so well.
Well, and sometimes people click it by mistake. I found they're clicking around and they're making a mistake. And we're getting some questions in, but we'll get there, Audrey, when it's time. I promise. I'm going to be talking about communicating your value. When people ask you, what do you do? What makes you different? Becoming referable with your natural market, with brand new clients, because if you're going to get referrals, you got to be referable. We're going to talk about asking for referrals / introductions, really asking anyone. It's pretty much the same process. And then turning referrals into an introduction, because these days you have to get introduced. Gail, let me run through yours real quick and give a one sentence description of what you'll be covering.
Okay. So as you put it up.
You're not seeing it?
Okay. Now I am.
Okay. So
the first thing is, I want you to think about the difference between phone dates and random dialing. We'll go over that. It's much harder to do random dialing these days. I'm going to talk to you about creating a digital business card and putting away your paper ones, save you a lot of money. We're going to talk specifically about scripts for referrals, natural markets, and mentor calling. And also we're going to quickly go over how to host a virtual networking event.
Great. Good. All right. So I appreciate the chat, all the chat folks. One was a good question. How long until we get the replay? My goal was to get that replay to you before my head hits the pillow at the end of the day. And maybe even faster if we're lucky. So I always like to start off my section with talking about financial leadership, because to me, this is the business you're in. And my definition is helping people make decisions that are in their best interest that they wouldn't make without you, right? When you question people's assumptions, when you teach them things, when you explain things clearly, when you dispel the myths, when you take the confusion out of the decision process, you're helping them make decisions that are in their best interest that they wouldn't make without you. And everything that Gail and I are talking about here today is dependent on you providing value. You have to provide value to prospects, to clients. But Gail and I were talking about this before we went live. You don't necessarily have to deliver a policy before you provide value, or wait 6 months into a relationship. If someone thanks you for persisting to set up the meeting because they've been wanting to address some of these things for a long time, they're recognizing the value. If after a fact finder they say, wow, this is great, right? I've never really thought about my finances in this way, and I've never really thought clearly about my retirement, et cetera. Then guess what? You have provided value. and you're exhibiting that financial leadership. So this is all about you providing value. And I like to start out with that. So how do we communicate our value? You get the question, what do you do? Or sometimes you have to answer, what do you do? Right? You have to send an email to someone. You have to leave a voicemail message, and you have to say, this is what I do. Well, I've got a simple little formula I want to give to you. And I'll give you a couple of examples, real life examples. So the formula goes like this. I specialize in, and what that does is it displays your confidence without feeding into preconceived notions. If you say I'm a financial advisor, or I'm an insurance agent, or anything like that, if you give your title first, then it's going to feed into preconceived notions of what they have about that title. You don't have to do that. The title will come later, if at all, if it's ever needed. I specialize in, we or I, qualifies your market, who you work with, and this could change depending on who you're talking to, who want to, whatever the people you work with want, that's the benefit, right? So it's actually pretty easy to talk in terms of benefits if you talk in terms of what the people you work with want. And again, I'll give you a couple examples in a second. And we always want to create a sense of emotion around this. And the neat thing is when you're working with money, there's always emotion involved. So you don't really have to worry about that. Just talk about money and emotion gets involved. And then the value in action, it could be an example, it could be a quick story, it could be your personal why. I'll give you some examples, but it brings it to life. So you don't want to do the first three without that for example. If you're at a social setting and you don't really want to launch into this value positioning statement, it seems too business-like, then start with the story. Start with the example. Somebody says, what do you do? Well, I'll give you an example, right? I just had a client in my office today and this, da-da-da. So you can actually flip it if you're in a social setting. All right, so let's give you some real specifics here. And these are real ones, by the way. And these words may not be your words. They're their words. And you may not like the words. It's fine. You find ones that work for you and produce the results you want. So I specialize in retirement income strategies. I work with executives and professionals. This is a guy I was coaching just yesterday, who want to enjoy their lives, not having to worry about running out of money before they run out of breath. Now, I like that because I'm playful. It's a smile. Nothing wrong with getting a smile, right? Yeah, I definitely don't want to run out of money before I run out of breath. For example, right? In this case, most people are frozen by this and that, and you can read this. My mission is to bring confidence, right? So the mission is his personal why, not his personal why, his client-focused why. So you can see in this 4 sentences, you cover quite a bit in 4 sentences. So if you got to put it in an email or if you have to leave a voicemail, it doesn't take up very much time. Let me give you a second example of this formula. I specialize in financial planning for fast-paced entrepreneurs. I work with successful business owners who want to. What do successful business owners want? Well, one of the things they want is this guy's clients want to focus on what they do the best, running their business and making money, for example, right? Or I'm a financial quarterback for my client. And then he goes on to explain how he assembles a team to help the business owner with all the different things they need to do. So this is a very simple formula from which you can craft your what I call a value positioning statement. Yeah, you could call it an elevator pitch if you want. I like the value positioning statement. I specialize in, I work with, who want to, and then a story, an example, etc. All right. So that's part of communicating your value. But then sometimes people want to know what makes you different. I'll tell you, centers of influence want to know what makes you different. CPAs, attorneys, and folks like that, they definitely want to know how you're different than all the other financial professionals calling them to try to get into their book of business. And so I want to give you a quick formula here. It's a great formula. But here's some examples of places to look for what makes you different. Target market, big believer in target market. We're going to be doing more webinars down the road. I just did one on that. I'll do more. My newest book, Radical Relevance, talks about how to go after a target market. But certainly that is a way that you bring different value because you know their world better than others do. Your special expertise, maybe you have credentialing or training in a certain area. Maybe you work with families with special needs children. So that could be an area of expertise or specialization. You might have a special process. Your fact finder, if it's very comprehensive, very complete, much more so than a lot of firms use, then that could be your point of difference, that you really do get to know people in a deep way before you start to make recommendations and suggestions. It could be your process for how you stay in touch with clients over time. Most people in this industry don't do a very good job of staying in touch with their clients over time. That's another webinar we could do. But I'll give you an example. One of my coaching clients, Al Fox, I've been working with Al for 10 years. When I started with Al, he had 300 million of assets under management. Al this year just went over $1 billion. And he gives me some credit, but he shouldn't give me any because he's done all the work. Nonetheless, what he does, one of the ways he wins this business is he teaches his or tells his prospect how he's going to stay in touch. Should we work together? This is how we're going to stay in touch. We're going to meet quarterly. We have these client appreciation events. We have this, we have that. Yours may be different. It's okay. But by explaining what he's going to do and how he's going to stay in touch, he wins business. That creates differentiation from who they've been working with in the past. And if you're not sure, or if you just want to get a little more meat on the bones, talk to your clients. We should always, whenever we're crafting our value proposition and what makes us different and what we do and all that, we should always talk to some of our clients, not all of them, but you all have a few clients that love you, that have maybe a marketing mindset. They would love to talk to you about this and help you figure this out a little bit better. So please don't hesitate to talk to your clients about this. So now let me give you the formula. Yes, I am going fast. That's why we're going to give you the recording and the slides. And I got this formula from Karen Kopp and Carl Gould. I actually have a chapter devoted to their book in my newest book, Radical Relevance. And it's real simple. It goes like this. Anyone can, but only we, for example. There's that for example again. It's very important. Anyone can, but only we, for example. And these words can change a little, and you'll see. I'm going to give you a couple of examples right now. So many financial professionals can talk about various financial tools and products. That's not hard to find. But very few have a process like ours for truly getting to know our clients. And instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, our recommendations are highly customized. You get the best possible solutions tailored just for you. And we know a lot of people use cookie-cutter approaches. And if you really do take that extra time, then this could be one of those differentiators. Right? For example, and then you give an example of what a client said to you. It's one of the best ways to brag about you or brag about your value or brag about your differentiation is put it into the words of your clients. My client told me. I had one advisor tell me, he says, my clients tell me that I know more about their company's benefit package than the HR department. And that's not something that he wants to say, but he can put it in the mouths of his clients, and then he can kind of say whatever he wants. My clients tell me this, right? My clients have told me this. Let me give you another example of this formula. Many financial professionals can talk about, various tools and products, but very few have the depth of knowledge about your company benefits package, right? By focusing on your firm, I'm able to anticipate other opportunities. And this is the example of the gentleman I was working with that my clients have told me that they thought I know more about. I had a client, one of my clients tell me, Bill, you make asking for referrals as natural as breathing. Wow, that's cool. Mike, can I quote you? He says, yeah. Now, I don't want to say that because that sounds kind of arrogant. But if I put it in the words of Michael Schmitz, who's told me that, then all of a sudden it's okay to say it, right? So it takes the arrogance away from that. So many can, anyone can, only we can, very few can. You can adjust those words a little bit, right? But that is the formula for differentiation. All right, so how to talk about your value. Let's talk about being referable, shall we? Because if you're going to be proactive for referrals, you better be referable. How do you know if you're referable? Well, you know what your barometer is? That you're getting some referrals without asking. Unsolicited referrals and introductions are a barometer of your referability. Everybody in any business, anywhere on the planet, should be getting some word of mouth and some referrals without asking. Now, when you're brand new, you don't have a large base yet, do you? So don't worry. There's other ways to figure out how you're referable. That's not the only way. But what we know, and studies have shown this, Julie Littlechild up in Toronto, Canada, has done some great research on this. There's a low correlation between client satisfaction and giving referrals. In her study, only 20% of satisfied clients gave referrals. But 98% of engaged clients gave referrals or made introductions. So we need to create engaged relationships, engaged client relationships. All right. So what's an engaged relationship, Bill? Well, I'm glad you asked. You're feeling good about your value, right? You've connected with value. They like the questions you ask. You bring tremendous value through the questions you ask. I hope you know that. They like what you teach. They like your responsive service, all of that. You made a value connection. And you're also making a personal connection. Very important. People do business with people they like, right? All things being equal, people do business with people they like. All things not being equal, people still do business with people they like. That personal connection needs to be there. So I'm going to give you 3 words that will change your practice, your business, and bring you success very quickly if you just follow these for the rest of your career. Are you ready? Engagement, leverage, and connection. We create engagement. When we create engagement, we become referable. We get unsolicited referrals. We have people receptive to us asking. Then we leverage. Then we ask, right? We promote, we ask, we're proactive. And then we get connected. We get introduced. Very important. So when you create engagement, leverage, connection, this wheel will never end. And you will be able to feed yourself with a continual flow of good quality clients if you think in terms of engagement, leverage, and connection. So what does this look like? Well, let me give a couple of ways for quickly with new prospects, because I know folks that are new in this business, you want to become as referable and as engaged as quickly as you possibly can with new folks. And so one of the things you can do is help them see their gap, help them create clarity. My friend Bill Whitley calls this the here to there conversation. I call it the value gap conversation. What we do know about humans is that the brain craves clarity and certainty. Clarity and certainty. That's one reason, by the way, this COVID pandemic has been so disruptive. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it's been disruptive, but one of the reasons is because there's so much uncertainty and lack of clarity right now, and the brain doesn't like that, right? People go bonkers. That's a psychological term. So here's a great thing you can do. I have seen so many people over the years that I've coached create value and get referrals from prospects using this. And you can do this over the phone. You can do this with Zoom. You don't have to wait till you do this in person. What is there here? What does it look like, right? Where are their buckets of money, types of insurance they have in place, et cetera. What is there? What does that look like? What is their legacy? What is their retirement look like, et cetera? What's their here? What's their there? Help them get clear on that. Help them get clear on that. I'm telling you, they will love you because people love clarity. And then what are the opportunities? You may know some opportunities coming down the pike they're not aware of. They may know some things happening, maybe an inheritance coming or something that you're not aware of. And then the same thing is true with challenges. Help them get clear on their here, on their there, on the challenges and the opportunities, and they will love you. It brings so much value. So Kieran O'Connor is a gentleman who was doing this a number of years ago. This is when I kind of learned this from the very beginning. And he used to do this, and he'd write up the answers and send them out to his clients. Still does it, sends them out to his clients. And they just love it. They just love having it all kind of mapped out, written out. And so this is one way we provide value very, very quickly, clarity and certainty. Another way we create that personal connection is talking about our client-focused why we believe in the value, why you believe in the value that you bring. And different people get their why from different places. Now, it's not why you start in this business because you can make good money and have flexibility of your schedule and all that. I mean, that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about why you believe in the value. You know, what's that aha that you've had that made you realize the work you do is valuable? And if you haven't had that aha yet, just keep looking for it. Talk to your leadership, talk to your colleagues, talk to some veteran advisors or agents, and just get in touch with that value. Some agents have had the double-edged sword of delivering a death benefit check very early in their career. It's a shame that someone has passed, and they get to deliver this large chunk of money and see the relief on the spouse's face, right? It doesn't take away the pain, the grief, but it does take away some of the stress. And so knowing the value that you bring and explaining that. I'll give you one very quick example. Carol Upshur out in California, she was listening to a NAFA webinar I did. By the way, if any of you are members of NAFA webinars, Gail and I would love to do some webinars for NAFA. Anyway, I digress. So she heard me talk about this client-focused why. And she's sent me an email, and she's in like 2 days later, she says, Bill, I've gotten like 4, unsolicited introductions from 2 clients just talking about my why. And I say, well, let's talk about that. So we get on the phone, I record it. So Carol had a little bit of financial trouble before she got into this business. She had an advisor, gave her some bad advice. She recovered from that. She and her husband did. She decides to become a financial professional. And now when she's sitting down with her prospects, very first appointment, by the way, you want to communicate this on your very first appointment in most cases. She'll say, that's a little bit about what we do and how we do it. I'd like to shift gears for a second, tell you a little bit about why I do this, what drives me every day. She tells a little bit of the story, very quick, about what happened to her. And she says, my job, my mission is to make sure that what happened to me or anything remotely like it never happens to anyone I know. That's what drives me and puts me here right now. And that's how she started getting unsolicited referrals, because she became real to them. And she talked about her passion. If you can get and find your emotional connection to the work you do, finding an emotional connection to your value, and have that come out in appropriate ways with prospects, you'll be unstoppable. A mission-driven business is almost unstoppable, especially when it comes to finances, because there's so much emotion with people anyway that you will tap in and you will resonate with people when you find your emotional response to your value. So I have a little guide on this. I will send this to you. Goes into a little more detail. We'll include this when we send the slides and the replay. You will get this guide along with that. All right. And yes, for those of you who maybe came in a little late and didn't hear it, we are recording this, and we will send you that replay as quickly as we can, hopefully later today. We will also send the slides to you as well. We have 400 people on right now. That's pretty nice. All right, let's talk a little bit about asking before I run out of time, and I don't want to take time away from Gail. All right, so I want to give you my VIPS method. Think of the referrals as the VIPs of your business, right? So the V is discuss the value. This is probably the most important thing that I've been teaching in 25 years, is checking in with your prospects and clients and talking about the value. Tell me the value you feel you've received from this meeting, right? I think I have do I have the examples? No, I will send you the examples of what this value discussion sounds like. But it's checking with prospects. It's open-ended questions. It's not, have you found value in this meeting? It's, tell me the value you feel you've received from this meeting. Or if someone decides to go into underwriting, you made an important decision. I want to applaud you for this. And you're doing something that a lot of people put off. And we've talked about the consequences of that. I'm curious, what tipped the scales? What made you decide to move forward? Now they're reselling themselves on the value. You're learning a lot. When you ask these value questions, please pay attention, because you're going to hear how different people find the value in the work you do, and you will start to believe in your own value. Treat the request with importance. Why do we treat it with importance? Well, because the work you do is important, and you know that how you put it out is going to determine how it comes back, right? So one of the best ways to treat it with importance is come back to your why, right? I'm glad you see the value in the work we're doing, and I'm on a mission to bring this important work to other people. I want to make, at least help people make educated decisions that are in their best interest, right? Now I'm treating it with importance. I'm reminding them of the why. If you haven't told the why before, tell them now, right? And please don't be apologetic when it comes to this. It's like, Gail, you don't happen to know anyone looking for a financial professional, do you? If you could think of someone, that'd be great. If you can't, that's okay. I think I made you feel uncomfortable. I know I made myself feel uncomfortable. Why don't we forget we had this conversation? Please do not be apologetic. Make sure this comes from that place of confidence. Permission to brainstorm. The old methodology was a setup. The old methodology was they called it the affirmative. Have you found value in this meeting? Well, yeah. Great. Who do you know? That's a setup. This is a conversation. This is a discussion. It's a brainstorming. It's collaborative. Together, we're going to figure this out together. And then you got to come prepared. The biggest mistake that people make when asking for referrals or introductions is they throw open the whole universe. They say, who do you know we can help? And it fizzles. It doesn't go anywhere. We're trying to help them picture people in their mind's eye. Look, occasionally lightning strikes and you might, get a referral or two from this, but in most cases, it's going to fizzle. Here's the best way to ask. Come prepared with the bullseye. The bullseye are specific people you know they know. Maybe they've mentioned it earlier in the meeting or a previous meeting. Maybe you did a little digging and you see that they're on the board of directors of a philanthropic organization or a trade association for their business. But whatever it is, specific people they've mentioned. And then categories. Now, categories are great, and these are tried and true. These have been around forever, right? Life events, having a kid, buying a house, moving to the area, changing jobs, inheritance, selling a business bonus, all of those things. They're great because when someone's going through a life event like that, their radar could be up a little bit higher to meet someone like you. The timing could be much better. And so we don't want to, waste these opportunities. So come with specific people if you have one or two, and then say, and there's a couple categories of people we do some very important work for. I'd like to suggest those to you, see if it triggers anything. One category at a time, by the way. Don't run all the categories at once. You got to do one at a time. Then you can use LinkedIn. You can use, get lists from other places, and that's fine. But you can see how we're moving out from the bullseye a little bit. And you can get to open-ended brainstorming. Yes, you can. But don't start with that, right? Start specific. See how it goes. Let it flow and say, well, those are my ideas. Who do you think should know about the work I do? And then they're in the conversation. Now they will sometimes think of other people, right? So I'm glad to see the value in the work we're doing. And with that in mind, I've got an important question to ask you. I'm on a mission to bring this important work to other people and help people make educated decisions that are in their best interest. And I was hoping we could put our heads together for a minute, maybe brainstorm a little, see if we can identify a few folks that you think should know about the work we do. I do have a few ideas I'd like to run by you, if that's okay. A couple of people you actually mentioned last time we met. Oh, well, who are you thinking about? Well, I was thinking about your sister and brother-in-law. You told me they were busy and successful. And whenever I hear busy and successful in the same sentence, I know there's a darn good chance that they may have not taken the time to sit down and have the kind of conversations we've been having. If we came up with an approach that would feel comfortable, would you be open to introducing me to them? And hopefully it'll pique their interest a little bit. Oh yeah, what do you have in mind? And that's it. That's what it looks like, right? It's a simple conversation. You're not going to lose any business. I've never had anyone ever lose a client from doing this. You'll have some clients who don't want to do this, but the worst case scenario is you back off and they'll do it later. Any veteran can tell you that they've asked for referrals. The client didn't want to do it then. And then later they say, hey, I got somebody for you. And they're happy to do it, but on their own terms. So you're not going to hurt any relationships around this. Now, we're going to have to shift over to Gail. So I don't have time to get into the getting introduced. So what I've done is I've created a video. I know I promised this to you. And I have a video. It's about a 5-minute video on how to get introduced in a virtual world. And it comes with some templates and some really good stuff. So make sure you watch out for the email from me that's going to come later today. It's going to have the replay in it. It's going to have the slides in it. It's going to have a couple of guides and reports that I've put together for you. And it's going to have a link to that recording so you can catch the 5 minutes around how to get introduced in a virtual world. So with that, what I need to do is stop sharing my screen. So Gail, you can then share your screen.
Okay.
And I will go on dark in a minute, and I'll look at the chat, see if there's anybody needs any help with the chat.
Okay, so.
There's a little delay, still waiting to come up, but it should be here any minute. There we go, and go into presentation. All right, beautiful. All right.
Okay.
So, Gail Goodman, everybody. Yay!
Roar of the crowd. So what we're going to do, I want to give you just the basics for the premise of everything that I talk about in order for you to update your appointment setting skills. And we're going to talk specifically about some of the people you're probably focusing on while you're working more remotely and not going out and networking, which is some of our life's blood, but we're just not doing it for now, guys. So the first thing that we have to keep in mind is that almost everybody on the planet has a smartphone. Just assume that people have a smartphone until told otherwise. The challenge has been, and this is due to robocalls and telemarketers, people got in the habit of stopping the picking up of their phones. This is not new. This has been going on for a while. I would say that it started getting really bad around 2013 when managers started calling me and saying, dialing sessions aren't working. I said, I don't know what you mean. And eventually, you know, dozens of people start calling you and saying, uh-oh, people aren't picking up. You start realizing that's becoming a reality. People ignore their voicemails. You probably know this because you call me, leave me a voicemail, and I return your call and I go, what's up? And you say, I left you a long voicemail, Gail. And I go, oh, I didn't listen to it. So keep that in mind. Once upon a time, for those of you who are very young, there wasn't such a thing as texting and emailing. There was only phoning. So now that we have texting, emailing, and phoning, we want to try to effectively use all three of them. And the last thing I want you to keep in mind is, again, I would say 15 or so years ago, maybe even 20, we didn't have the same generational differences than we do now. And when I'm talking about differences, I'm only talking about communication. We're not going to get into millennials versus boomers any other way. But knowing somebody's age is probably going to help you to understand whether an email or a phone call or a text is going to be preferred. I understand about compliance. So I will say that because I am in the communication end of this, you have to do things that are compliant, whatever that means to your company. So for those of you who have never heard this concept, it may be new for you, but you may be setting phone dates and not realizing it. Setting phone dates basically means that instead of me randomly picking up the phone to call Bill, knowing that he travels and he's busy and he does webinars and he's on the phone, I will email or text him to ask him when is a good time. What's happened in America is that because random dialing was abused by strangers who we don't want to talk to, by the way, strangers who are also machines, what happens is in order to make sure that somebody is willing to pick up your call, it's better to set a phone date, especially if you're working with a business person. When people call me randomly and I pick up, I frequently get them saying, oh, you're there. Well, obviously I'm somewhere all the time, but I'm not somebody that picks up easily because I do webinars and seminars. I go out of town, I'm on airlines when there's no COVID-19. What has happened is that even in personal relationships, people set times to get together. And I will tell you that the request for a phone date is 2 sentences, not 3, not 4, 2. You want to write 3 sentences, you have to send me a 100-page dissertation and $100. Why? Because nobody reads past 2 sentences, so don't write 3. So your request for a phone date is always the same. 1 is a personal sentence. It's always the first one is about that relationship with that person. Here's your second one. Send me some times you're available in the next 2 weeks for a brief phone call. I'm going to be repeating this later on. Send me some times you're available in the next 2 weeks for a brief phone call. That's it. The second concept, and you know why I'm going to say this, is you have to become a contact. Every American is getting very sensitive about getting robocalled. And what we have found is that over time, slowly, I would say again, over the past 7 to 8 years, what has happened is a person will not pick up their little rectangle, here's mine, unless the person's name comes up. This is not odd. This is now the norm. So here's the dilemma we're in, guys. If you're not in somebody's phone, they don't want to know you. I think that's terrible for people in sales. Our whole life is about meeting new people. But if I don't already know you, I don't want to know you. So what you have to do is get into people's phones. The habit of exchanging contact information digitally is more important than anything. That way you have their number and you make sure they have your number. So when you come up, and all of us have weird numbers now. I mean, my phone does not match the 615 area code that I live in, but I want people to know that it's me. So what I'm going to strongly recommend, and again, you're going to get this slide, do not freak out, there's a lot here. I want you to create a personal but professional contact in your phone that is essentially your digital business card. I want you to stop carrying paper cards. I don't want you to buy them anymore. I moved from New York to Nashville. I found, I am not exaggerating, hundreds of rubber banded business cards that I collected at networking events for the length of time that I was living in that house. What do you think I did with all of them? Yeah, I threw them away. And people are going to throw yours away. So I am not a fan of paper business cards. You need to be in my phone. So when somebody says to me, please give me your card, I very politely say, well, I'd like to give you my digital business card so that I'm in your phone and you'll know it's me the next time I call you. And almost everybody goes, oh, okay, that's a great idea. Here, let me tell you a quick story. My next door neighbor, when we went there to visit them, because one of their baby gifts came to our house, I was standing there, we decided we want to have dinner. I'm talking to the husband, and Bobby and I said, you know, we should exchange cards. We should exchange phone numbers. He immediately pulls out his phone. He's got a digital business card. And I turned to him and I said, what kind of sales are you in? And that just started a whole nother conversation because Bobby already figured out as a salesperson, I need to be in people's business. I need to be in people's phone as my business card. So what you want to put in there is everything that is professional. No birthdays, no Yahoo accounts, no Gmail account unless it's professional, no anniversaries. And the last thing that's not on here is a good close-up professional picture. Take 1,000 if you have to, I don't care. But what's important is that you have a picture that comes up as your name comes up. This is your new business card. Okay, so when you become a contact, I want to get into some detail about the referral. Let's say I am sitting with Bill. He is the advisor. I am the client. And like he said in his presentation, when he wants to ask me for an introduction, he brings up my sister, Ellen, who I talk about. She's my only sister and we're pretty close. So instead of getting just a name and a number, which is a referral, what Bill and I are now proposing is that you have a proactive help from your client. So what Bill would say to me is, Gail, you know that if you just give me Ellen's name and number and I try to call her, she is not going to pick up her phone. If you text her and let her know who I am and to take my call, that would be very helpful. Now, here's the assumption that I'm making right now. Let's stop the activity. Bill is my advisor and he is in my phone. He is now asking me to take that contact and share it with my sister with whom I have a texting relationship. So what you want to do is put in that 3 sentences. So I'm doing the texting, guys. For those of you who are worried about your compliance department, and I know who you are, who tell you you can't text at all, it's the client doing the texting. I am sending to my sister Bill's contact in the following 3 sentences. 1, Bill is my advisor and he is pretty freaking great. Did some wonderful work with me and Dawn around our retirement plan. Number 2, you want to tell her to save it. Save it in your contacts. And 3, the call to action is take his call. It will be worth it. 3 things, guys. This is who he is, and they got to brag on you. Not just, he's my advisor, take his call. It's not going to work. So now, remember, a name and a number is not as helpful. So now what we have a person who has received the contact. I have asked her to save it, and she has saved it. Bill's next move is not to call her. Bill's next move is, dun, da, 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 to set a phone date. Now, because I texted Ellen, he knows that he can text her. So what I would suggest that he writes is 1 sentence that is unique to me and Ellen. He might say, Gail and I have had a great appointment and mention lots of childhood stories you probably want to give me your opinion on. Second sentence is, what is it? Send me some times. You're available in the next 2 weeks for a brief phone call. That's how he's going to ask for a phone date. Ellen then texts him some times, and then he has a phone date. He will call her on the let me give you an example. He'll call her on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Okay? Now he's got an actual referral who's going to pick up the phone. I want to tell you a couple of things, guys. Here's how things have changed. I think random dialing is extremely hard. Some of you need to do random dialing as extra activity because you don't have enough of natural market and referrals and those kinds of leads, the ones we're going to be talking about today. That's okay. But keep in mind that the more you set phone dates, the more you know people are going to pick up. You're going to confirm them the day before just by saying, just confirming we're still good for tomorrow's phone date at 9 o'clock, and she goes yes or whatever. Here's what I need to tell you. I don't teach objection handling as much as I used to, because when people are on a phone date, they already know what you do. They've already accepted to speak to you. And what has happened is that the appointment setting has gone exponentially higher, because here's where you're going to be getting the pushback. You text somebody for a phone date and they don't respond. Don't take it personally. You try it again. They don't respond. That's the way people are saying no to you now. When my sister responds and gives him a phone date and knows he's a financial advisor and I referred him in, he's got a pretty good chance of getting an appointment, as long as he doesn't mess up the verbiage, which is what we're going to go over. But you have to realize the shift around appointment setting is dramatic from 15, 20 years ago, when I could have told you how many dials to make, how many hours you needed to be on the phone, and what your appointment setting rate was depending on the type of lead you were calling. That has changed. Phone dates are the way to go. I'm going to get somebody asking the question, so I'm going to answer it. How many phone dates do I need? 2 more than the number of confirmed fact finds you want to do a week. You want to do 5 fact finds a week? You need to set 7 phone dates, because phone dates reschedule the way appointments do. But if you have 7 phone dates a week and you schedule 3 to 5 fact finds a week, you're going to be the best person in your agency, believe me. Most people don't do 5 fact finds a week. So if that's your goal, you only need 7 phone dates that stick, remember. So what do you say to a referral? This is what it sounds like. Hi, it's Gail. I understand that Bill texted you about me. I'm calling for 2 reasons. Now, here's an important part of every script now, during COVID. Those of you who've been through some of my other seminars, I hate the words, how are you? We all do them. They're a bad habit, but they open up a can of worms that can waste a lot of time. What you want to always say is, I'm calling for 2 reasons to control the conversation, which is the personal part. First, how is your family doing with the new normal? This is intel. It's not just social gossip. You need to know what their household arrangement is during these very unusual times, so you know how to ask for the appointment at the end. I'm in a no-child household where Dawn and I have a lot of freedom with our hours. I have young families in my life where there are 2 parents at home trying to work with 2 kids under the age of 5. That household's a little bit more crazy than mine. So when you say, how's your family doing with the new normal, really listen. It's important to you. So here's the potential referral call. The other reason for my call is that Bill suggested I give you a call because in this environment, many people are feeling uncertain about their money. We had a virtual meeting, and since he felt better about his situation after that conversation, he wanted me to call you. All I'd like to do at this point is position myself, and for those of you that are rookies, Ed and my team, as an additional financial resource to you. We can set up a time to talk, and after I share the total scope of the work that I do, you can use me any way that makes you feel comfortable. So what we're doing at the end, and I use these words a lot because they're great. You're saying you can use me any way that makes you feel comfortable. That is the no obligation part of the script, and you never say no obligation. Nobody believes you. So what's the best time of day to have a 20-minute meeting? Or if you have a young family, so what's the least hectic time in that household for us to have a 20-minute meeting? You can use the right verbiage to get the appointment based on the intel on how's your family doing question. Don't say, how are you? So for those of you who have to call your natural market, and for those of you who lied to your managers and didn't call your natural market, I know that because you tell me the truth. Let's talk about who your natural market is. Friends and family, people you share hobbies with a lot of people that don't want to call their friends that they golf with or ride with or play tennis with. I don't want to ruin the relationship. No, you're not ruining the relationship, guys. You're adding value. I think that's what Bill was talking about. People you know through your children, and also the vendors that you use. So here's what it looks like. Again, hi, it's me. I'm calling for 2 reasons. First of all, how are you all figuring out this new normal? I think that's a great question. Don't say, how are you? The other reason for my calls, I wanted to let you know that I started a career as, whatever your title is, at the company. And I decided I'm going to build my practice about the people I care about the most. In fact, they asked us to list those people. And of course, you were at the top of my list. Stop right there. You just told this person, I was told to write a list of all the people I care about, and you're at the top of my list. That's important. You should talk to the people you care about. And just say it out loud. And then the ending is the same, similar to the last one. I'd like to position myself and my team, if that's appropriate, and my partner, as a financial resource to you, and find a time when I can show you the new scope of the work that I do, and then you could use me and all the resources at my disposal in any way that makes you feel the most comfortable. I know this is an unusual time for all of us, but what's the least hectic time for you, earlier or later in the day? You have to learn how to say this stuff, guys. It's easier if I write the words for you. If you need to write your words, you better send them to me before you use them. For those of you that are experienced and have not made your calls, I want you to go on what I call my apology tour. You owe everybody that you have not called an apology. Here you are as a financial professional, not helping them. We are having a medical problem in this country. It's a health problem, but it's also a financial event. And we can only handle one of them. This is creating financial stress for many, many people. So if you haven't called your natural market, now's the time to do it. Start out with, hi, Bill, it's Gail. I'm calling for 2 reasons. First of all, how are all of you coping with the new normal? Let them talk. And then you say, the other reason for my call is I need to tell you that I owe you an apology. Sorry for the typo there. I want you to pause for a second. Let them sink that in, because what goes through somebody's mind is, what did she do that she didn't tell me about? Because people don't call up and say they're calling to give you an apology. You know that I've been in financial services for more than 15 years, and in all that time, I've never reached out to you on a professional basis, and I need to rectify that. Don't change the word rectify, because rectify has a religious undertone. You've done a sin. It's not like you made a boo-boo. You've really done them wrong. So I want you to leave that word in there. If I put certain words in, don't take them out. And then the rest is the same. I want to just be a financial resource, have a virtual meeting, and I can share the scope of the work that I do. There's no obligation there. It's just, let me show you what I do. I need to get this off my chest. And then you end it the same. Some of you are making calls to your mentors, C&D clients. Let me be really clear about the beginning. Number 1, don't ever say I'm calling on behalf of. Why? That's secretary/assistant language. You're a licensed person. Don't say that. Hi, this is Gail, and I am Bill Cates' associate. Not I'm calling on behalf of Bill Cates. You've got to be very careful with this, because it devalues the fact that you can run the appointment. Second sentence, don't say, I know he hasn't called you in a long time. Good grief, stop saying that to orphans too. You're probably aware that Bill isn't somebody who makes unnecessary calls, but at this juncture, he's asked me to give you a call. You're basically not apologizing. You're saying, hey, we don't nag, but now I'm coming at you. It's a much better way to say it. And then you go through, it makes sense to reassess the financial decisions you've made. One thing we know for certain, especially now, is that things change, either your family situation or the market fluctuations. And I'd like to make sure that the programs you have in place are still working in line with your financial goals. We can do this by phone, or we can set up a virtual meeting, which allows us to see each other face to face. Which is better for you? I'm not going for the time as the alternative choice clause. which kind of call do you want, face-to-face or just over the phone. So this is for those of you who get to call your mentors clients. Last but not least, what I'd like to do before we get to questions is how to do a virtual networking event. First of all, you want to create the networking event via Zoom or whatever you're allowed to use at your company. And you invite 2 or 3 people in a target group, and they invite one person you don't know. That's a really good way to do it, guys. You always have to create a presentation that is relevant to them, and you have to keep it short and invite conversation. Don't make it too much one way. The most it should be is 30 to 45 minutes. Now, one of my friends from Nashville, she's in a group that I was invited to do a speech for because we were supposed to meet in person in April, and lo and behold, we were all at home. And I did a presentation for this group. Now, I will admit it was all salespeople, but probably it was the best networking meeting I've ever been to. It was just fun. Everybody was up there. It was only about 12 of us. I did a presentation. People had good comments, good feedback, good questions. It was fun for me. So if you can set this up, it'll be fun. It has to have a good reputation. If it starts being boring, people say, oh, don't go to that one. Gail's pretty boring. This is the last idea we're going to put up. There's lots that you can do, even though you're restricted to doing face-to-face networking. So what we want to do now, Bill can come back on and we can open up the Q&A section.
Well, we do have some questions and some, I've been watching the chat, some nice chat, some tips, people helping each other in the chat.
Oh, good.
Gail, somebody asked about Calendly, you know, the calendar.
Yes.
What do you think about using that? I mean, I don't like it personally for myself, but I love it when someone has it because it makes it really easy for me to schedule a call with them.
Okay, I will tell you my down and dirty about Calendly. You still have to ask them out loud when you don't know them about when's a good time. I don't think when you don't know somebody, you should talk about Calendly. When I have a relationship with my advisor or with my dentist or with any kind of person, me already knowing I set appointments is because I already see the value in the relationship. I don't mean to mimic Bill, but of course I do.
That makes sense. Good, good.
If you've already got a relationship, okay. If you don't refer to it.
Got it.
But you can have a signature.
All right, I'm moving you along here because we want to try to, we'll probably go over time and those who can stay, can stay. As far as the business card, you know, the digital business card, a lot of people mentioned, some people said they use V-card. There's a term called haystack, I guess. So there's different ways to get these cards created. You don't have to go to a graphic designer, someone asked.
No, don't do it at all. Make it a simple contact.
It can be just a contact, right? It doesn't have to be a V-card or haystack. It just be.
Sometimes a V-card can't get opened up in an iPhone. So if you've got an Android and they've got an iPhone, they may not talk at all, and you have to do it all one line at a time.
Good.
Don't
all
be
right.
sexy.
We have 3 questions here for you, Gail. Nobody wants to ask me any questions. Would love to hear your thoughts of leaving messages on voicemail when making cold calls.
No.
That's a simple one, isn't it? Don't do it.
Not cold.
Yeah, not cold. Okay. I never listen to my voicemail ever. I don't. I can't tell you.
Guys, there's my living example.
I don't. I have a function where if someone leaves a message on my phone, it gets translated into an email and then I'll read it. Otherwise, I never get it. All right, Gail, what do you do to make sure the referral who never heard of you to save your digital card in their later, right? So I'm referring you, Gail. I'm sending your information to George, but George doesn't know who you are. How do we make sure George actually saves that information, right?
I'm going to tell you something that I found out because I've become a tech genius around just this little piece of equipment. Now, if you have an updated iPhone, they may say it may be so-and-so. It'll sort of tell the owner, you may have had this name somewhere in some other part of your phone. Like if you're on LinkedIn and I've looked you up or something. So if they don't actually save you when they call and it's in the texting stream, your phone will say it may be Bill Cates. Because the texting stream is now recognized as part of the phone.
So it may recognize it even if they didn't save it, is what you're saying.
That is
That's
correct.
cool.
They have to have updated their operating system.
And I guess we can sometimes we can influence the language that our referral source uses and say, you know, just do me a favor and you know, say you must save his information. Or, I mean, the better you know the referral source, the more fun you can have with this, and the more insistent you can be, I suspect.
Right.
All right. Jack asks, is there something tailored for calling back your natural market that might not have been receptive when you first called?
Yeah, I have a callback script. What you do is you call me and say, hey, Aunt Gail, it's Elizabeth. And the reason that I'm calling is that I was recently sitting in a phenomenal program about ideas for small business owners. And I have to tell you, I just was thinking about you the whole time. So when you have a new thing that you learn, or somebody talks about a case that reminds you of somebody in your family that may have said no before, and it's very specific to things that you know about their life, you can call them and say, look, I would be remiss if I didn't share with you this information that I share with virtual strangers, and I think it applies to your life.
Right. Good. For me, whenever I'm calling someone I haven't called in a while, I just think unless it's a friend, and just to schmooze, I try to bring some value, right? What can I bring of value? What can I recommend? What did I hear? Hey, I'm going to send you this article. I'm going to mail you this book. I just want to let you know. And then you start to talk a little bit more and you have, So Bijan asks, Gail, any materials in your library I can buy for virtual networking?
No, but I know that Michael Goldberg, our networking colleague, who I am his best disciple and probably mimic him more than anybody else. Michael has a couple of new newsletters about doing virtual networking, because Michael is essentially the networking teacher. My job is to get you appointments from those networking events. But I know he's knockout networking, Bijan. I would definitely go to his website and look for his updated newsletters.
Good.
Because that stuff is important.
A few more questions. First to Clay, will this session be repeated? Yes.
Yes.
Next Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Next Thursday, the 23rd at 1 o'clock Eastern. Same information. Success is not for wimps. Success is not for wimps is where they register. We only have 100 seats left, so and it will fill because it's filling faster than this one did. And we'll send you the recording, Omar, as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you. Sarah says, how do you send the client the virtual contact without texting the client? Well, you don't, right? The prospect, the referral source is sending the text.
Correct.
So, right.
Yes.
So you don't send the text.
No. You're not supposed to send it. It's got to, the referral text has to come from the person who they can accept it from.
Right.
And that is the person who they know. Like, I have to send it to my sister. If you send my sister a text with your contact information and she doesn't know you, she's just going to delete it. I would too. We get a lot of weird texts these days too, I've noticed.
Yeah. So I'm typing in Michael Goldberg's information. Somebody asked for it.
Yeah.
Knockout networking. You'll find him. Just look him on LinkedIn. I don't know his website by hand. Gail, do you happen to have some instructions about how to create a digital business card in a smartphone? Well,
yeah,
I think you're saying don't do that, right?
On your smartphone, you have to have a digital business card on your smartphone that is a contact.
Okay.
Instructions, you're getting the slides again, and I have more detail about it in my book, but don't get sexy with it. It won't be able to be opened up where it needs to be in the other person's phone, just in their contacts. You all want to get so classy and colorful, and it's like, I can't open it up. What good is it?
All right, I'm just typing in here. All right, great present. Thank you. Mac, great job. You still deliver. I don't know if that's for her or me, but we're trying. Thank you. You're welcome. You all need to get and read and reread Modern Appointment Setting. Oh, that's Gail's book.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ron, Clay. Thank you. Where can we register
Get my
next week,
slides
please?
as well. There's a question about my slides as well.
Yeah, and somebody put in Michael information right there. He'll love us. I think that's about it, guys and gals. So thank you for being on. Don't keep us a secret, you know, and by the way, Gail and I are doing a ton of virtual sessions, webinars on different parts of our expertise for agencies. So if your agency is looking for people to, you know, to phone in and give some good value and interactive, and you know, Gail, she'll run an appointment setting clinic. She'll do everything. And then eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to visit you live. But if you have any influence, we'd love to do webinars for you guys. And Gail, just so you can, in the chat, we're getting a bunch of nice contacts. So thank you, everybody. I will work hard to get this recording and the replay and the slides, my slides and Gail's to everybody. Gail, any parting comments?
Yes, if you want to send me your digital business card, send it to the text number on the screen. I will check it for you. If I can't get it open, I'll let you know that too.
Great. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, guys. Have a good day.